Hi guys. Well, I was lucky enough when I was 19, I took off from America and I went to the Holy Land called Amsterdam, and everybody, of course, has either heard of or been there. And I ended up, after being there only a few months, I was walking by the Hash Museum with my mother one time, and she came to visit me, and we saw the sign for the Hash Museum at the time it was called, and she basically said to me, like, wow, you should work there. Within 2 weeks, I called her up and said, guess what, Mom? Guess where I'm working? She knew right away. It had to be the Hash Museum. So I got a chance to be there in the time period when most people, considered hemp to be something that was just an obscure thing that wasn't even, wasn't mainstream at that point. But I had a copy of The Emperor with me, which was one of the few things I took with me when I went to Europe. And I was working at the Hash Museum, and they didn't really have anything about hemp in there. It was all about smuggling and plants, which is, it's interesting to look at, but it doesn't really educate people. So I started taking Jack's book and photocopying bits of it, putting them in frames and hanging them up. And, luckily at the same time, Chris Conrad came, and he transformed that place and turned it into the Hemp Marijuana Museum, which is what it is today. And, he actually was co-writing on that book, so I got a chance to hang out with Chris and learn more about hemp than I'd learned before. And basically, within about 2 months, Jack came to visit. And so I was pretty excited because this was like my hero. I had the book, it was the guy that I wanted to meet. And I could be quite honest, the first time I met him, I wasn't sure if I liked him that much because I gave him some bud that I've been working on, some bubble gum. It was my first selection of bubble gum, and I was really proud, so I took my best bit to there, and I gave him a piece, and I swear he rolled the horriblest joint I've ever seen. He rolled some nasty looking, just didn't even look at it, didn't smell it, didn't look at it, didn't even look at me or anything. Whatever. He rolled this disgusting joint, and he kept relighting it and relighting it and relighting it, and I was like, I could roll that for you if you like it. He basically barely smoked it, didn't comment on it, so I was kind of disappointed. I thought this guy was like a weed guy, and he knew. But he was on a different path. His whole, he was actually, his brain moves faster than most people's brains ever move, so he's already way ahead of me. But at the same time, he was absorbing everything, and he was taking everything in, because later, when I had to show him how to get to the Homegrown Fantasy, a coffee shop maybe 5 blocks away, it took us about an hour and a half to get there because he was like, I had to drag him over to here, and he was telling me stories about mushrooms and how mushrooms and religion are all connected, and it was one of those things where I remembered everything, but it didn't quite make sense at that time. It was very scattered. So he did his speech. We took him to the coffee shop, and he did his speech. And during the speech, he kind of was going off the subject, which is something I do a lot myself. But he kept staring at me, and I tried to guide him back to the story that he was telling, And after the end of that all, we ended up becoming quite good friends because, I am in the hemp industry. And I did it because of Jack, pretty much. He is the reason that we're all here. That's 100% true. And after the second or third time that I met him, I kind of understood that was just Jack. Jack is like that. And later, we're talking 20 years later, which is recent, obviously, after I think it was the second stroke, and he recovered to the point where I don't know how many percentage or whatever, but he was definitely there. But at the same time, he had very big gaps missing in his memory. And I told him the same story. I said, listen, remember that time when I met you and you rolled that crappy joint? And I gave him the whole story, and he remembered everything. But it was like I basically connected the dots in his brain because of that story of the mushrooms and the religion, because he was actually working on a book for about 15 or 16 years, which he had just sort of completed recently. And that was basically that story about mushrooms and religion and the connection between them all. And I think when I told him the story, it was like, he basically made the connection. That was pretty special because later when he went home, he told somebody to tell me, thank Adam for telling me that, because now not only did he remember what I told him, but he remembered other things, and that was really important, and I felt really good about it. I thought, if I can help Jack as much as he's helped everybody else, even if it's a small percentage, But in his mind, it was a really big thing because everything at that point was a struggle, you know, and a struggle to remember. And again, when you see somebody who's, you know, he's got a lot to say, but he can't say it because of the situation that he's in, you know that that's painful, but we all kind of know what he's saying anyway, because like I said, he's been saying it for so long. We just have to kind of now start to say it to other people and make other people understand that we're all, you know, connected in this hemp industry, whether it's just about smoking or not. You have to look at the reality that the minute that they allow hemp growing in America, then I can stop growing, I can stop producing in China, which is where I produce my hemp now, because it's the only place that produces the quality that I need for the production of the clothes that you saw from Hoodlum. But I'd much rather grow it here in America, because after 20 years of living in Holland, I've actually decided to move back to America. So I'm moving to Colorado on Thursday after 20 years in Amsterdam. And I think it's a good time because I realized that America's on its way up. And I mean, other parts of the world are too. Holland, unfortunately, has completely reversed all of its policies and is starting to become like the hardest place in the world to be who we are, you know? And so I just want to be who I am, and I think all you all just want to be who you are. And part of doing that is getting this initiative over. Let's just get on with it because it's been too long. Thanks, Jack. Thank you.